From a very young age, society treats introversion, shyness, and aloofness as bugs that need to be fixed. We are taught that these are behavioral errors rather than valid baseline temperaments. The standard advice given to introverts is to adopt the extrovert playbook. You are told to smile, mingle, and fake it until you make it. Forcing yourself to be outgoing means you are presenting a completely inauthentic version of yourself to the world. You put on a mask just to get through the room. That mask works, but it leads to a specific complication. You attract a large volume of shallow connections who are responding to a performance, not to you. Adopting the extrovert playbook attracts networks built for someone else's personality. Maintaining those connections guarantees you will remain permanently exhausted. Introverts do not need a personality transplant. They need a different operating system. The core metric for this system is return on energy. You must treat your social energy as a highly finite currency. This table outlines the conflict. Societal expectation demands volume and constant availability. The introvert's reality requires depth, meaning every single interaction carries a massive energy cost. Using this new system requires a specific trade-off. You have to trade the illusion of broad social popularity for targeted relational depth. This means accepting brief moments of active social discomfort in order to prevent prolonged periods of total social burnout and isolation. Look at this flowchart. When entering a networking environment, evaluate your decision-making process. The default failure path, mingling out of internal obligation, leads directly to high energy drain. The alternative path requires external focus. Look for an intrinsic motivation to speak to one person. You might want to figure out what makes a specific person tick, or understand how they arrived at a certain belief about the world. Anchoring on curiosity shifts the interaction. It stops being a forced performance and becomes a natural investigation. By following your intrinsic curiosity, you will speak to far fewer people, but the connections you do establish will be effortless, authentic, and sustainable. A specific subset of introverts are highly empathetic. They act like sponges, absorbing the moods of everyone around them until they become overwhelmed. Their most common protective mechanism is to retreat entirely inward. They stand in a crowded room and analyze their own discomfort. This inward retreat creates a hyper-awareness of your own isolation. You effectively trap yourself in your own head. The tactic to break the cycle is counterintuitive. Force yourself to actively step into someone else's head by asking them a highly targeted question. Focusing entirely on decoding another person's perspective acts as a bypass for your internal noise. Your brain cannot process a complex answer and your own anxiety at the exact same time. This requires an upfront spike of courage to initiate, but taking that single action simplifies the complex social environment, making the rest of the conversation much easier to navigate. Then there's the threat of the me monster, the person who interrupts and derails your conversation simply to talk about themselves. The standard passive response is to stand by and bleed social energy just to maintain the appearance of being polite. Here is the physical dynamic of that interaction. 3 people form a tight conversational triangle. When the interrupter pushes in, they force you to yield physical space. You have a mechanical defense. Shift your body language, step directly into the space, and disrupt the orientation. This physical shift makes the interrupter subconsciously uncomfortable. Eventually, they will pause for a breath. Use that brief pause. Politely tell your original partner you'll finish the conversation later, and physically walk away. You must be willing to endure 3 seconds of intentional social friction. Doing so will save you hours of exhausting, hostage-like conversation. Surviving public networking is just triage. The ultimate goal of an introvert's social strategy is building a resilient inner circle. This chart evaluates deep relationships based on 2 metrics: intellectual stimulation on the x-axis and emotional safety on the y-axis. These are the friends you want, people chosen primarily to be intellectual sparring partners to challenge your thinking. The flaw in this category is durability. High-octane intellectual relationships often lack the resilience to weather true vulnerability. Contrast that with the friends you need. These are people who draw out your inner child and are completely comfortable sitting in silence. You may have to seek your intellectual validation elsewhere, but prioritizing emotional safety over stimulation helps ensure that when you are under pressure, the relationship remains intact. This survival guide is built specifically for the time-poor, energy-conscious introvert. You have a choice. You can continue trying to win a networking game designed for extroverts and collect thousands of superficial connections, or you can choose the authentic path, acknowledging that your social battery is finite and requires protection. If you want a life insulated by authenticity and enduring networks, you must deploy your energy strategically, defend your boundaries ruthlessly, and embrace the power of silence.